sort of branded media services direct to clients. But this model now of publishers starting to build their own full-fledged, full-service agencies internally is, of course, one of the ways where some publishers are turning for the next generation of revenue. And as we heard yesterday from Jim Spanfeller, part of what's going on and part of the future of publishing is going to be tied directly to how the current tumult in the agency world and the agency model finally plays out. So I have two different two newspaper brands who are both pursuing this full-service agency model internally, but coming at it from somewhat different directions. Eric Myers, those of you who have been here before recognize Eric. He's the president of Belo Media Group. Before that, he was at Cox Media Group, and he's been driving the generation of their internal agency. And also Andrea Rowan, who's the general manager and head of the agency called Accelerate, which is within the McClatchy group. What I've asked both of them to do, because they're coming at this from somewhat different directions, is to start us off by presenting briefly what they're working on, what their internal agency looks like, and then we're going to compare and contrast how they're coming at it and the common and the different challenges that they're facing. So please welcome Eric, who's going to start us off by telling us about Belo's internal agency.
Good morning. So I think I'll start with what Belo is. Belo, not a huge brand, but a 180-year-old company. It's I'm new to Texas, been at Belo since March, but I did find that Texas does love Texas, and Belo Media Group and the Belo brand is actually the oldest running business in the state of Texas. That actually means something. But I think it's an interesting juxtaposition for the conversation today, because it is an old legacy newspaper brand. Got into the TV business pretty heavily, sold off television handsomely to Gannett, which formed Tegna, and so that's kind of Belo's background. So they've been around a long time. They've been deeply ingrained in media, and around that same time, I was pretty good friends with the executive team at Belo, and they started doing something which I thought was fairly interesting, and taking some of their investment, setting up an M&A arm, and buying small agencies. They believed that the future of journalism was not going to be able to be scaled by selling 300 by 250s or creating more impressions. They did not believe that the future of journalism was going to be supported solely by subscriptions, although they wanted to get heavily more into that digitized model, as well as the decent cash flow they got from print subscriptions. But they felt that they could get higher up the funnel in the advertising world, and so they started to purchase. I think that's fairly relevant to this overall engagement discussion of this conference, because I think you can only have so many ads on a site, right? You can only have so many ads in a newspaper. Obviously, that's a declining part of the business, but they believed that it's almost the counterpoint to Deloitte. As they got into our advertising world, we wanted to get more into the strategic world, and we wanted to use our intellectual property as a way to make cash and to support journalism. So we believe in engaging a deeper level. So instead of selling ads, teaching an advertising staff as an ultimate goal that they no longer had to say yes right away, slow down, and get every part of the marketing budget. So what Belo started to do was purchase not only on the ad shop side, so a traditional search agency. We purchased a brand called Speakeasy, which was native and SEO-focused lab. They were all startups. They were all very, very cool. But they were, without a doubt, selling products. So now we had a problem of 6 or 7 brands at Belo Media Group, all very different human beings, all sitting under kind of a loose shell called Belo and Company, and trying to go to market as one brand, of which they were not, and our clients were getting basically 7 different type of pitches from the same organization. So we created quite a mess, and we were product selling. And so as of 2 months ago, we made the hard decision to no longer set it up as a separate entity, but to take everything together and create one company. We don't know what it's called yet. We're going to call it Belo and Company. We've actually set up a PMO, a project management office, next to my office, and we are interviewing clients. We're doing consumer research, and we are starting over again. What is our go-to-market? What are we? What are we going to talk about? What's our ultimate business model? And we're literally in the middle of it right now. I act as though it's a restart. We also are a significant cash flow already. And so we created a pretty big agency, but a bit of a mess. And we're in the middle of seeing what's next. One of the things that we did notice, though, and I played to it, is culture. And people talk about culture a lot, and I have a discussion with our chief people officer quite a bit, that culture is not video games on our floor to make it look like an agency, and it's not handing out balloons. That's not fixing us. Culture is really the field to grow the talent that we need to be in this new model. And so we've actually sought out an executive coach. He works with big brands in the country, and we're starting over with what is our vision, what is our go-to-market, and what is actually culture with a capital C that's going to make us sustainable in an evergreen model. And that's really where we're at now. We're focusing heavily on talent. And again, everybody says that, but it's a specific kind of unicorn that can play in this space that is willing to stop, not sell an ad, talk to clients at a deeper level, and turn us something into bigger and better.
Let me, just before I go to Andrea, just want to flesh out a little more detail. How many people are we talking about? And
about 200.
And how many agencies did you buy?
So some of them we started up as well, but if you look at all of our brands, it's about 7.
Okay. But some of this was also that you built.
Correct.
Right.
We actually have a SaaS marketing platform in there that we did build from scratch as well.
Did you centralize everybody physically now?
Not yet. We're in the middle of that.
But were most of these agencies Texan?
Most of them are Texan.
Right.
Also Boulder, Colorado, and then we just bought a full-service ad agency in Tulsa about 4 months ago.
Okay. Let's move on to Andrea in the way that she built this almost exclusively in-house at McClatchy.
Yep. All right, Andrea, Rowan, head of the agency, Accelerate. We're built within the McClatchy family. And it's been fun over the past couple of weeks as we talked about what our goals and the direction that we want to drive to. Obviously, we have very similar goals for our advertisers and our business and how we grow it, but came to it a little bit different. A little over 3 years ago, we needed a way for McClatchy to differentiate itself, but also to find different ad revenue. So we said, all right, great, here's an opportunity for us to find new and incremental dollars for the digital growth of McClatchy, and we have Accelerate. Started with 3 employees. I'll give you a preview of a little bit of the talent that sits within the agency, and then talk a little bit about what our footprint looks like real quick.
Accelerate's a national digital full-service agency. We're really catered towards our customers and clients and driving the best results.
I promise it's only like a minute.
We follow a process that really fits the understanding of what our clients' needs are.
It really starts with identifying and uncovering the advertiser's business goals.
And really understand what they're trying to accomplish and what we need to do to get them there.
It shows that we actually care. Instead of just calling you and trying to push a product on you, we want to show you that we really care.
So the define stage is one of my favorite stages. That starts with the sales teams understanding who our clients are.
It's not just send you on your way with some advertising and hope you're doing well. We want to keep improving you as a business.
And the marketing services team takes that information and builds it into a custom media plan for the client. Everything that we do is tailored to their custom goals.
Your Facebook, all that needs to send the same message, the same branding, to the clients and capture their attention. Some have wild and unique styles and some have very structured.
The deploy step, one of the biggest differentiators in my opinion.
We take from a big giant toolbox of all sorts of different types of tactics, from PPC, SEO, display.
We deploy Google AdWords and Bing Ad Center campaigns to really meet those objectives.
Being able to tell a story from that data coming in after launching, that's like one of the fun part of the job.
Analytics and reporting is the portion that really provides the evidence for success.
That's how we really understand whether what we're doing is working or not.
This is how the tactic is performing, and that's why we're investing in those tactics.
How many click-throughs, how many view-throughs, how many form fills, phone calls.
That's why you should optimize towards a particular tactic.
A lot of other agencies, it seems, kind of set it and forget it.
And where we feel we go a step further is we're actually talking with the client, saying, yes, I brought you all these leads, but were they worth it? Gives them a good idea of what their return is on their investment.
To help make sure the clients are getting what they need brings out a passion in partnership that really anybody at Accelerate has to have.
Okay, shared that because it sounds very similar. You'll see a bunch of sizzle reels from everybody that says, this is what we're doing, this is how we reach people, we're doing a consultative sale, but actually doing that is very different than just saying that you're doing it. And I think for many years, McClatchy probably is guilty of saying that we were doing that, but we were really doing it. So what I'm grateful for the McClatchy company of the investment and building kind of from the ground up and investing in the services and the agency side is an opportunity really to find growth and be able to say that, put our money where our mouth is and say that we're actually doing what we say that we're doing with services. This is the just traditional McClatchy landscape, right, where we look and have looked for 162, going on 63 years now. 30 local news brands, some of them are bigger than others. Most are familiar with, Miami Herald and Sacramento Bee, some of our more flagship brands. But quickly, you've got 30 papers that are represented, but now you've got 39 states of where the agency actually has employees based in. So the first thing we did is said, we need to find talent. We need to find talent wherever we can find it, and we need to find the best talent that we can find. So we started with 3 employees a little over 3 years ago, as I mentioned, and the agency now and service organization exists of 250 employees. 75% of those employees are all new to McClatchy or the Accelerate family. So we've had a lot of acquisition in terms of talent and some challenges in terms of making sure that we're reaching the same people and we're telling a value proposition that they want to work with us on. It's not free pizza in the office. We have a foosball table. I'm not very good at foosball, I'll admit that. Maybe I could get better. But it's not having foosball table in there. It's not having great gourmet coffee. It's really at the culture and the heart of who we want to be and who we want to change and how we want to evolve McClatchy. And then I would say just an example of kind of where we've grown or scaled. Again, 3 years ago, we would have come and said, hey, we have a couple of clients who are really large, and we think that we're bringing a great value proposition to them. Now we've got, I would say, measurable enough amount that we have a good seat at the table with our partners at Google and Facebook and are making conversations on campaigns that are bigger than political or bigger than real estate and obits and things that even Nick mentioned yesterday. Like, I can't believe we're going to have a conversation on obits still. And that is, I guess, a big transition into who we are and the people that we hire. I mentioned we've had to hire a whole lot of folks into an agency and explain the passion of who we are and what we provide to our advertisers. The people that we have really make the difference. We have platforms we can utilize and work on, but growing from the pain points of learning to scale, that's one of the biggest ones. How do you have a vision for what you want to build, but not be able to instantly provide that to a business that has revenue objectives and needs to meet goals immediately? The most recent change that we made within Accelerate, we had some great coaching and some help within restructuring our revenue organization, but we didn't necessarily structure our services and fulfillment organization around it. So we said, okay, we've got a lot of growth and success in our large advertisers. Can we do the same thing with our SMB segment? We built SMB into Accelerate. So when we first started, the vision of the company was how do we help our largest digital advertisers grow, find new and incremental ways to do that. Just recently, we brought in kind of our SMB segment to follow the same principles and scale that group. We have a creative lab that was grown within the McClatchy walls as well, our branded content studio. That was integrated into the agency a couple months ago with the same objective. How do we just get more creative, tie it to the distribution, and make a better collective experience for our clients? And finally, client success. Yesterday, we talked a lot about what it looks like to to slow down churn and make sure that we're really focused on renewal and increase. So the client success portion of the organization has been integrated into the agency. So now it's one collective feel. When you engage with Accelerate, you have opportunities to work with a strategic consultant at the very beginning to do what's right for our clients and the business, but then also make sure that the fulfillment and client success reporting is all tied in under one holistic umbrella. Previously, it was very siloed. So. You're good?
No, go ahead.
No, I think
you obviously both of you made different branding decisions. I didn't see McClatchy mentioned in your sizzle reel at all, and yet Belo seems to be baked in. What was behind those decisions? Why not go the route of accelerate and have a separate branding that sort of underscores the independence of the agency?
Yeah, a lot of it, we kind of joke about it. If we come up with another name, then somebody's getting fired because we had 7 names already. And so we really just kind of sat back and said, Belo doesn't necessarily mean a ton as a brand, but it also, it can be built as a brand. It's kind of the determination. So for those people that do know Belo, that are big Texas businesses that respect that, so there's positive branding there. For everyone else that doesn't know it, we figure we can just push behind it. And quite frankly, having 7 brands still in accounting forms, on spreadsheets, was killing us. And it was creating a schizophrenia that we decided, let's take a deep breath and let's build something.
How about your
Well, we had 30 brands, so what's one more, right?
Okay.
31 make me.
Right.
Really, I think the approach was holistic in that you've got 30 very fiercely independent markets and fiercely independent market brands. What is going to be that unifying model that we use for our digital services? But I also think part of it was we opened markets that are in not our traditional areas. So we have offices where we've tried, some successfully, some not, but we've got a team in Atlanta, for example, where we picked the market, we found where we thought there was great opportunity. McClatchy means nothing to anyone in Atlanta. I'm actually from Denver. There's not a McClatchy property that's in Denver. So what we tried to do is not limit ourselves to the area where we could throw a newspaper. And to us, that means we've got to be able to stand on our own without the use of owned and operated and without the use of some of the traditional aids that we've gotten as a business for the past 100+ years.
Are you genuine? Are both of you genuinely media agnostic in terms of are you buying media on competitors' platforms for your clients?
We are.
And how do those? Are you?
Absolutely. I mean, our media strategists, when we first trained them, none of them had a clue about our owned and operated properties and the value that the owned and operated drove in those media plans. They were putting media plans back into the hands of our sellers. We were asking them then to maybe add in a little bit of our property information onto it. We didn't have a problem monetizing and selling our owned and operated inventory. It was a opportunity for us to find new and incremental digital dollars. That's not going to come from transitioning owned and operated or packaging and bundling that in.
Okay, well then that begs the question of how are you organizing this within the rest of your organization? Do you have the same people selling this product as selling the owned and operated products? That seems like an immediate conflict if you've got the same people doing it.
As of today, it completely is. So I don't know if it's going to be the same people. It's going to be the same headcount. And so we think actually one of our big, you ask yourself the question, where do we have a right to win here? We're not going to be we're not going to be an agency that's going to go after massive Fortune 500 or even Fortune, or 500 plus is where we're going to go, right? Mm-hmm. We don't think we want to compete. Obviously, we don't have a right to win in that space. Where we do think we have a right to win is around content. We think we have a right to win around certain areas that we think we are strategically aligned to be better than most, and our sellers can do that. One of the things, and to finish my point, is that we have a right to win because we have 100 sellers. And if you know the agency space at all, most agencies would die to have 5 sellers. And so we can be a little bit more active and not just a passive RFP shop. And so we think that's a big positive to us.
And Andrea, let me have you answer that question before I come back.
Right now it is. We have some dedicated sellers. So like I mentioned, the Accelerate brand has its own sellers that are outside of our McClatchy newspaper footprint, so they don't use the owned and operated piece. But in the McClatchy footprint, we do have a combined sales team where they're doing both. And if you're doing what's right for the client at the end of the day and trying to meet those goals and making sure that the proposal that's in front of them is based on the metrics that they want to judge their business by, the conversions that they're looking for, and really the e-commerce trail and helping build that consumer journey, then there is a place in some of those in some of that area for what our owned and operated inventory is, and it builds a valuable value proposition. But the more products that our clients have in their portfolio with us, the stickier they are, and that's the goal. Like CPA and the cost per acquisition for these clients becomes a bear to the business, and the goal is to get them in the door and then keep them as long as we can. So the more products we have and the more that we can do for them, the better off we're all going to be.
Could you follow up on Eric's point? Where do you feel you have a right to win? Where do you want to play, and where don't you think you should be playing?
It's in a similar space. It's in a similar. It's maybe you've outgrown your SMB marketing plan, and now you're maybe the big M in SMB, but you've outgrown your middle segment, and you're starting to grow. You need better metrics, better tracking. You need a partner that's going to be able to help put the integrated plan together. So maybe not the one truck plumber, but again, maybe not Fortune 500.
I have to warn you, I've been asking this question of publishers for at least 15 years, and I always get a bad and mealy-mouthed answer, so be forewarned. You are competing with agencies who are also your clients. How does that work? How do those conversations work? How do you make sure that how do you navigate the problem of being out there in the field, often competing with agencies and at the same time courting their business?
We're currently trying to teach nuance. And so I think a lot of people will say, oh, they're our partners, they're okay with us. They're not. And so one of the biggest shops in Dallas that's a national agency and handles some pretty sexy brands, the woman that's been leading media there for 20 years had lunch with me the other day and just said, just make sure no one walks in our office and mentions anything you do outside of your owned and operated products. I said, check. And that was the end of the lunch, basically. So we have to be very cautious with that. That being said, we also feel we can play in a white label space where we are better. We're better at creating content than many agencies that we work with. And so some of them are using us as their white label back.
We're kind of in the same frame of mind. You turn them into your clients, right? What does the white label opportunity look like if they're not ready or willing to invest? I think many have become wise to the fact that this isn't an easy thing to do, and it's not something that they can hire 5 people in a back shop or an office to try and help make sure that they have the digital expertise that it takes to move these clients forward and meet people's expectations. So the more and more the opportunities are coming up to partner and to make sure that those swim lanes are defined. But we're going to more RFP pitches combined. We're going into areas where maybe we don't feel like we've got the bandwidth. I don't have a whole team working on RFP proposals, but we do have agencies that we partner with that do, and they don't have the digital backbone, so we're going to those RFPs and we're winning together.
Are these programs, well, actually, let me differentiate the two approaches. What has been the key challenge in mainly building this through acquisition?
That individual brands of young startup mentality people staying incredibly siloed longer than I would have expected them to. And so we really have to blow that up right now.
And you're also getting people who are not only agency people, but they're in agency contexts, and you're bringing them into a media company.
And they're actually scared to death to be part of a media company.
Why?
And so, because media people, media sellers are the C- students' revenge in their eyes. And so, so there's that interesting context in the office that, I tell the media team, just realize that you're the unintelligent part, and the agency has to be told how smart they are all the time. And so we joke about it, and both sides joke about it the same way, but it's fairly real and palatable.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing because I spend half of my life on the phone with agency executives, and I know exactly what you mean. If you tell them how smart they are, they love it. Andrea, what has been the biggest challenge? What has been the biggest challenge? Yeah, I know.
I love all those agencies.
Andrea, what has been the biggest challenge of doing it internally and building?
The biggest internal challenge is, look, we know what our true north is, and we've known what our true north has been from the day that we started working within the business. And for the majority of the people who have joined us from outside, they're still with us, and it's great to keep that employee continuity and client continuity too. But scale is really difficult. And knowing that you can't have exactly what you want tomorrow, or can't provide to your executive team exactly what you're trying to build tomorrow, can sometimes be difficult. We've had, executive turnover. We started Accelerate under one CEO, and then now have a great CEO that supports the business vision. We had strategic sales leadership that changed over as well. And so there are many points when I look back, even just over the past 3 years, where there are big opportunities for everything that we've worked really hard for to kind of erode or crumble. So I think the biggest piece of it is scale. People start to believe in what we're doing, and we get a lot of clients on board, and our sellers are starting to move forward, and then we need to hustle to make sure that we can fulfill and make sure we've got the next thing, and that we're building to that early on. It's that's a little more difficult when it's the build, buy, or purchase path.
I want to open this up to questions. One quick final question from me is, are these programs, are these simply reshuffling the revenue deck, or are you able to prove out that you're actually growing the pie? Is this simply another way of retrieving revenue that you're losing elsewhere, or are you actually growing revenue?
When we started Accelerate, we've been our own independent opportunity and our own business base, our own OCF numbers, all of that to build. The agency was created to drive new and incremental dollars to the business. And if we're not doing that, then we're an expense to the business. So making sure that we keep the profitability lines moving, but the expense lines, and watching that, we don't have, I don't know, it's a luxury we don't have to not be able to make sure that we're driving new and incremental business to the business.
Yeah, so they've grown into a significant 8-digit number. It's real cash, but it's still just replacing lost revenues right now. And so we're trying to put together a 2-3-year plan from today where that finally bumps to the other direction.
Any questions? Yep, back here.
Hold on, sorry. Let us know who you are, where you're from.
Scotty Reese from A Girl's Guide to Cars. We function as an agency too. We're a media company, and our primary revenue source is the agency work that we do, or the marketing work that we do. So I'm curious how important the content is on your media properties and how that aligns with the marketing work that you do. Is that really important, or is that operate separately from the agency?
It's pretty separate for us right now. And so, but when I say we have a right to win, it's regionally, and we're much smaller than we used to be from a national footprint. But if they are a business in North Texas that cares about North Texas, then that content does matter quite a bit. But for about 90% of that 8 digits that I was speaking of that's in that digital agency marketing services world, it doesn't matter at all.
I don't want to say the same part of it, but very similar. Separate, but then trying to find the revenue streams to bring it together.
One last one.
Hey, Mike Brooks from Weatherbug. What did you guys do to improve culture? You talked about it's not foosball, it's not pizza. We all have a lot of similar dynamics going on within our business. What did you do that was effective to kind of keep the cohesion together?
To be determined for us right now, quite frankly. I mean, we're trying to identify that culture can be performance-based, that culture can be that we are going to be a full-service marketing organization, but we're going to also be willing to walk away from clients and admit that we're not going to be great at everything. We're going to try not to spread the peanut butter too thin. And so those are some of the culture elements we're coming up with right now, so that it's not just about the fact that we do have scooters that you can ride around the building, which we do, and it is fun, but that's not a culture, right?
Eric, Andrea, thank you so much.